This is the second part of Chapter 4 from the book The Third Temple. As the moon transmission continues, a story unfolds, not of power or prophecy, but of love. Sarah's voice returns, softer now, steadier. She speaks of pain, of rebirth, and of the long silence between a woman and her God. Abraham speaks too, not as a patriarch or prophet, but as a man who finally learns to see. But in the bunker, reality tightens. The president has one last question.
The Third Temple, Chapter 5, Conclusion. There was Egypt, and once again, the lie, she is my sister. But this time Sarah wasn't afraid. She already felt the life inside her. She knew everything would be good. She conceived. She felt it at night, as Abraham held her hand. No signs, just a certainty growing from within. You were born, Isaac, she would tell him. And everything changed. Abraham carried me in his arms. He laughed with you. He breathed. He finally loved me truly. Platon glanced at his notes. Alexander Moisevich, what do you think of this? He gestured toward the screen. It appears to be a highly professional film, biblical sci-fi in style. You want my opinion? Let's say so. What is your opinion? On the one hand, Jews have always opposed any reinterpretation of the Torah. History shows, and this has happened many times, that changing the Torah leads to the mass death of Jews. I don't think you need me to give examples. They are well known. On the other hand, we consider the Torah, I mean the 5 books of Moses in today's terms, as a kind of constitution. The interpretation of its laws has taken place over centuries. Prophets, many great thinkers and sages have interpreted the laws of the Torah. All this is laid out in the great books, the Tanakh, the Talmud, the Midrash. Jewish mysticism is described in the Kabbalistic texts, but all of it is based on the laws of the Torah, which were given by God himself, and which no one can change except God himself. What do you mean by unchangeable laws of the Torah? Times change. What was important back then may be irrelevant now. You're right, Vladimir Vladimirovich. In modern Jewish schools and universities, we study and describe how to apply the laws in today's world. Thousands of books and articles are published. At least, I don't know of a single law that would need to be canceled. And if we suppose these videos, Platon gestured toward the frozen image, were in fact given to us by aliens, what then? May I approach the screen? Asked Birdman. Of course, of course. Birdman stood, put on his glasses, approached the screen closely, squinting as he examined the image of the serpent. Then he returned to his seat. Well, if we assume these are real recordings, in the grand scheme, it doesn't change anything. Explain. In the Torah itself, angels appear more than 10 times. In other Jewish texts, many more. We regard angels, or malachim, as messengers of God who do not possess free will like humans do, and who carry out the will of the Almighty without deviation. In Judaism, angels most often carry out specific tasks. They may deliver messages, like those who spoke to Abraham, Jacob, Moses, offer protection, punishment, and so on. Unlike in some other religious traditions, in Judaism angels are not prayed to. Jews worship only one God, monotheism. Therefore, if these angels, as in this film, are in fact extraterrestrials, practically speaking, nothing changes. Alexander paused for a moment. Stroking his beard, he added, of course, that's only if they're carrying out God's will and not pursuing some private agenda. Platon. All right. I think I've understood a few things. Alexander Moisevich, I must admit, you're a very fine Jewish propagandist. We need people like you. Will you come work for us? Berman responded nervously, no, absolutely not. I'm fully satisfied with my current work. In his head a thought flashed. That's all I need, working for these butchers. Never. Platon caught the meaning behind Berman's changing expression. Okay, calm down. I was joking. Now we'll show you one more fragment. Then I'll probably have one last question. But one day, in secret, he took Isaac away. Sarah knew nothing. When they returned, the boy was trembling mute. She held him tightly, like she had when he was small, trying to calm him. How could he? She asked herself 1,000 times. Something inside her cracked. From that moment, she told Isaac I never trusted him again. I didn't argue. I didn't speak. I only protected you. Isaac shivered, sitting outside the cave. Abraham still held him close. He remained silent. There were no tears in his eyes, only memories, heavier than the rocks around them. They watched the sun rise. The gray streak at the horizon slowly turned to gold. You were her covenant, Abraham said at last. And she was the axis around which our lives revolved. Laughter became your name. Abraham, softly, almost a whisper, you know, son. I often said that God told me to go. That one must obey, that there is a covenant. And you've heard that 100 times. But I never told you about her, about who she was. From the very beginning, she looked at me as if I were light itself. And I didn't even see her. I walked. I listened to the voice. I was fleeing, and she just followed. No voice, no promises. She loved me to death. And I began to love her, truly love her, only when her body bloomed again. When her skin turned smooth, her voice bright, her hair alive. Only then did I notice. Only then did I want to be near her. Not out of duty, but out of desire. Because all her youth, all her best years, she gave to me, who never even looked her way. I carried her in my arms when you were born. I never told her I loved her. Not until the end. A pulse of wind. Abraham lowered his gaze. Isaac looked at him, for the first time, not as a prophet, but as a man. Then Isaac stood and quietly walked back toward the people. Behind him, 100 paces behind, walked Abraham. Berman couldn't take his eyes off the screen. The quality was so high, the footage so realistic, he couldn't even begin to process what he was feeling. He absently stroked his beard, as he often did. The president pressed pause. My final question, he said. What does the Torah say about prolonging youth or resurrecting the dead? Alexander felt a chill run through him. This was the question they had brought him here for. His heart began to race. He responded slowly, carefully choosing every word, watching Platon's face for reaction. In the Torah, meaning the 5 books of Moses, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, there is no direct account of resurrection. That is, no instance of a dead person being brought back to life. In the Bible, as you know, Jesus Christ resurrects several people. The daughter of Jairus, the widow's son in Nain, and of course, the most famous, Lazarus. Alexander smiled lightly. Whether there were side effects remains unknown. Platon cut in. And what about rejuvenation? Any cases of that? Berman replied, I'd say there are at least 3 cases of rejuvenation in the Torah. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, Genesis 18. Sarah was 90 years old when she heard she would bear a son. She even laughed at the idea. After I am worn out, will I now have this pleasure? Genesis 18 verse 12. But a year later, she did indeed give birth to Isaac. The sages and commentators say God not only gave her the ability to conceive, but actually rejuvenated her body so she could carry and nurse a child. According to Midrash Bereshit Rabbah and Rashi, her menstrual cycle returned, her beauty and vitality returned. Abraham, Genesis 17 verse 17 and onward. He was 99 years old when God told him he would have a son. He also laughed, asking, can a man 100 years old father a child? Later it says he fathered Isaac with Sarah, meaning he too was physically restored, even if the rejuvenation isn't described explicitly. Midrashim explain that God returned to them the strength of youth. In Midrash and Kabbalah, rejuvenation is sometimes linked to the Messianic era or the world to come. In Psalms 103:5, it is written, your youth is renewed like the eagles. The sages interpret this as either a metaphor or even a literal promise, that God can return strength to people as though they had become young again. Platon nodded. Thank you, Alexander Moiseyevich. Very clear explanations. If you don't mind, we may invite you again. Thank you, Vladimir Vladimirovich. It's a great honor to meet with you, Berman replied.
Platon Rodov.
Escort the rabbi. Rodov stood and took Berman gently by the arm, leading him to the exit. A minute later, he returned. So, what do we do with all this? Platon, try to make contact with them, but very carefully. By the way, where's Masha? Maria? Your daughter. Yes, Masha. My daughter. Bring her to me as soon as possible. Right now. I'm tired. I'm going to lie down. Rodov jumped up from his chair, straightening like a soldier. He reached for Zverev's shoulder, trying to lift him, to no effect. Zverev was sound asleep, head resting on his arms, muttering something, already snoring. Platon waved him off wearily. Leave him. And with a shuffling step, his gait old and stiff, he left the room, escorted by a guard.
First part of this chapter, you can find the link in the description below. We hope this story left something with you. If it did, please like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. It's a small gesture, but it truly helps us share these stories with others. And if you know someone who might connect with this journey, send it to them. Thank you for being here. See you in the next chapter.